expansion is neck and neck. The contest is underway to lead there. It's one of the most critical states in the nation. Both Democratic Secretary of State Katie Hobbs and the Republican nominee, former television broadcaster and fierce Trump ally Kari Lake, are joining me this morning. Ms. Lake, I'm going to start with you, and I want to start on the question that everybody says is their top issue across the country, and that is the economy. Inflation is still near its highest levels in 4 decades. In your capital city of Phoenix, it has the highest inflation in the entire country, 13%. So if you are elected governor, what specifically would you do differently to fix that?
Well, it's a tough issue because the problem does out of Washington, D.C., but we still have to help our citizens here in Arizona. And the people who are suffering really the most, I've learned, is the people who are nearing retirement or who are retired. I've talked to so many of them, and they say, Kari, I saved all my life. I did everything right. And my retirement savings has shriveled up by a third. I've lost a third of it since Joe Biden took office. And so we're going to help in any way we can. And that's why I unveiled a plan last week to put $500 million back into the hardworking Arizonans' pockets by getting rid of our rental tax and our tax on groceries here in Arizona. And this is not going to harm the cities. The general fund, we're going to help them for the next 5 years with the general fund. And we're going to make sure that they have enough to get by. This is a growing Arizona. People want to move here, and our revenues are going up, and we have a surplus. We need to hand some of that back over to the hardworking people, and we will.
Let's turn to another issue facing your state, and that is the influx of migrants at the southern border. A lot of these individuals are seeking asylum. They are fleeing political violence in countries like Guatemala and Honduras. Do you accept that the U.S. has a responsibility to accept those asylum seekers?
Well, the vast majority of the people coming across don't really meet the criteria for asylum. There's a lot of fraudulent asylum claims that are being made. I'm really concerned about the people of Arizona. We've had 5 million people come in, and we've had 1 million of them called gotaways. That means we're not even processing them. They want to avoid capture because they have criminal records. We need to vet people coming into our country. We have a great legal immigration system, a very generous legal immigration system, but we can't afford to take on the world's problems right now when so many Americans are struggling, so many Arizonans are struggling. And I'm really concerned about the number of seizures we've had with fentanyl coming across the border. It is the #1 killer of young people in this country, and it's coming through Arizona. We're no longer going to allow the cartels to have operational control of our border.
Well, DHS says that less than 1% of migrants encountered at the border have a criminal record. But I want to stick on the question of asylum. Those that do meet the criteria, should they be allowed to stay in this country? And do you think that what the current governor, Doug Ducey, has done, sending some of the migrants to Washington, D.C., is the right thing to do? Would you continue that practice?
Dana, I'm going to have to disagree with you on that figure you just put out. We have 1 million gotaways. These are people who are intentionally entering this country, mainly through the Tucson sector, and we don't know what their background is. There's a reason they're trying to get in unnoticed. It's because they have a criminal background, and they are coming into this country. We know that they have tracked down terrorists. They've tracked down people wanted for murder. You can go to the Customs and Border Patrol site, and you'll see we've got murderers coming in. We have people with raps, with a rape record, you name it. We've got hardened criminals coming.
Well, let me just tell you that this stat that I just cited comes from the Department of Homeland Security. Less than 1% of migrants. And I know that you're using language like rapists and criminals and so forth. What I was asking about are migrants seeking asylum. But I want to move on to another really important issue, particularly when it comes to your critical swing state of Arizona. And that is what happened in 2020. You called the 2020 election corrupt, stolen, rotten, and rigged. And there was no evidence of any of that presented in a court of law or anywhere else, that any of those things are true. So why do you keep saying that?
Well, there's plenty of evidence. We had 740,000 ballots with no chain of custody. Those ballots shouldn't have been counted. We had election laws.
Where's the evidence of that?
Dana, there's plenty of evidence. You can find it. I'm happy to send it to your team. The problem is the media won't cover it. And
We've
it
covered
really
this
interesting that
extensively, and what you just said has been
only
debunked.
one side of it, Dana. The real issue, Dana, is that the people don't trust our elections. They haven't since 2000. I'm a reporter. I've been sitting on your side of the desk for a long time. And since 2000, we have Americans who don't trust our elections. In 2000, in 2004, they didn't trust the elections. In 2016, Kamala Harris, Amy Klobuchar, and Hillary Clinton, everybody on the Democrat side said the
Ms. Lake,
election had problems.
Ms. Lake, there
I'm
definitely
sorry,
has
but
been some of
it's a
that. But I
fair
want to say
question.
in 2000, Al Gore conceded. In 2004, John Kerry conceded. In 2016, Hillary Clinton conceded. And we didn't see that in 2020. That's the difference. And so the question is, are you undermining faith in elections by saying that the 2020 election was stolen when there's absolutely no evidence to support that?
Dana, in 2018, Stacey Abrams never conceded. She still hasn't. I don't hear CNN calling her an election denier. We have the right, and it's protected with our First Amendment, to question our government and to question elections.
No question
and we
about
still
that.
have the First Amendment.
Yep.
We still have the First Amendment. And when you start seeing the media cancel people for questioning their government, then that's when we have a problem.
I totally agree about the First Amendment. You and I are benefiting from the First Amendment as we speak. So I couldn't agree with you more on that. I want to play. I want to play for you something that President Trump's own top officials. They're the ones who investigated all of this. Again, these are President Trump's top officials at the Justice Department, and they said under oath that they saw no evidence of substantial fraud in 2020. Take a listen.
I made it clear I did not agree with the idea of saying the election was stolen and putting out this stuff, which I told the president was bullshit.
I said something to the effect of, sir, we've done dozens of investigations, hundreds of interviews. The major allegations are not supported by the evidence developed.
We were in a position to say, our people have already looked at that, and we know that you're getting bad information, that's not correct.
So these are President Trump's own top Justice Department officials. Why not believe them?
I'm looking at what's happening in Maricopa County. And you know what? Let's look at the 2022 election of August 2nd, where 1 hour into Election Day, because of my opponent, Katie Hobbs' incompetence, we ran out of ballots 1 hour into Election Day in one of our largest counties, Pinal County.
That did happen, and the county officials there apologized.
Republican ballots.
I'm going to push back on things that didn't happen. That did.